All right, you are live, Mr. President.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Board of Education meeting.
I put in my
October
time.
26th. We will start with a reading of the Open Public Meeting Statement, which says the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies, at which time any business affecting their interests is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Board of Education Policy 0162, the Board of Education of the Borough of Bound Brook has caused notice of this meeting to be posted in the board office and at Bound Brook High School, and mail or fax to the Courier News, Bound Brook Borough Clerk, South Bound Brook Board of Education, and any person who has requested individual notice and paid the required fee. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gorski, a roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bell.
Here.
Mr. Dawson. Here. Ms. Gazino.
Here.
Ms. Carlton. Mr. Zupko. Here. Ms. Musa.
Here.
Mr. Minhas. Ms. Hyde.
Here.
Mr. Fulmer.
Here.
And Mr. Board President.
Here.
You have a quorum present this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Gorski. We are up to item number 1.6, where we are inviting Gwen Thornton back to the district to provide some training on ethics for our partners tonight.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back. I feel like I haven't been here in a week. But it's good to be back. So I'm here to do your annual ethics training. I know that this is something most of you have been through several times. So I'm going to try to keep it and be as succinct as I can. As soon as I get this thing to work. There we go. This is the obvious disclaimer, which is this is meant as information. It is not legal advice that you should seek from your board attorney. And always. It is really about accountability to your public, to your community. As publicly elected officials, you are entrusted with the care of all of the students at Bound Brook and ensuring that the public's perception is that you are adhering to what is best for all students, ensures that you maintain that credibility in your community by being transparent. Obviously, this is something you regularly do, but you want to make sure that you preserve that credibility. And acting in an ethical manner ensures that that continues to be the case. So the School Ethics Act was adopted to ensure the Board of Education members, in fact, have a code to follow. I keep waiting for our legislative brethren, I think I say that to you every year, down the street from us in Trenton, to adopt the same kind of code. I'm not holding my breath after 20 plus years. But again, it's to avoid any kind of conduct or public perception that there are any kind of irregularities. The School Ethics Commission the School Ethics Act established the SEC, which is the School Ethics Commission, outlined what are prohibited acts for Board of Education members, established the Code of Ethics 9 years after the School Ethics Act was passed, lays out your mandatory training, and identifies your requirement to provide a financial disclosure statement, which you all have to do if you are not newly elected by April the 30th. So if you haven't done yours yet, please make sure that you do so, because the SEC, when they reauthorized the regulations to this act in the last January, they have now spelled out specific penalties for failure to take both mandatory training as well as those folks who are tardy on filing their public financial disclosure forms. It's really simple to do them. I keep a copy year after year. I've been filling them out for 20 years. I go back to the days when we had to fill them out in ink, in duplicate, sign both the originals and give them back. Now you can do it all online and hit a button that says, I certify this is true. So if you just print it out, you can copy the addresses of your employers and all of those things year after year without having to look them all up. That's not illegal. That's just smart, okay? So that you don't have to go back and redo it year after year after year. So please make sure that you do that. Who is accountable? Board of Education members, all charter school trustees are responsible for abiding by the Code of Ethics as well as the mandatory training requirements. So again, they apply to both board members and trustees. The code of ethics in terms of conflicts of interest and disclosure statements also apply to school administrators or anyone with an administrative certificate. But that is different from the code of ethics piece of it, okay? You probably remember this slide. There are 9 members to the SEC, School Ethics Commission, 5 citizens, 2 board members, 2 administrators. They serve for 3-year terms, although oftentimes they serve for more than 3 years because they're appointed by the governor, who oftentimes does not replace folks, and they continue to serve for a period of time. And only 5 people can be from the same political party. I think that's important to point out because it maintains the nonpartisan nature of Board of Education service. Okay? There are 2 responsibilities. They have jurisdiction over issuing advisory opinions as well as adjudicating actual ethics cases. Advisory opinions you can seek, but on a prospective basis. If you think you may be facing a conflict of an issue that's going to come before the board, that you have a potential conflict and you want to get definition around that, you can write to the Ethics Commission ahead of time, ask them to weigh in, and they will let you know if it's a conflict or not. But it's only on a prospective basis. You can't write them after you vote and find out it's a problem. So you need to make sure you think ahead if you have that potential. Typically, they hear about 85 different ethics cases. I will tell you in the last year or so, the majority of ethics decisions, which I'm sure if any of you have been reading them in school board notes, have noticed they're pretty much around social media. It's taking up an inordinate amount of time on their behalf, and so we have tried to redouble our efforts to have board members understand what appropriate use of social media is as a board member, not as an individual citizen, because no one's suggesting that you're not an individual citizen, but your behavior as a member of a Board of Education, of course, is bounded by the Code of Ethics, and so you have to be aware of that as well, okay? Anyone can file an ethics charge against a Board of Education member, any member of the public, another board member, someone from another town could file a charge against a Board of Education member. We are seeing, you may have seen it on YouTube this past week, there was a board in Middlesex County where they had someone come up from South Carolina to weigh in on a particular issue, which did not go well in the community. They told that person to go home. But nevertheless, you know, if that person chose to, they could file an ethics charge against a New Jersey Board of Education member. So that's just something to keep in the back of your head. Mandatory training, there's some changes as a result of the reauthorization of this. So for new board members this year, beginning this year, you only have 90 days to take new board member orientation. That runs out April the 7th. So I don't think you have anyone in that circumstance, but if you know any new board members who are talking about the fact they haven't done it yet, they need to do it ASAP so that they don't find themselves out of compliance in their first year. By the end of the second year of your board service, you have to take Gov 2. By the end of year 3, you have to take Gov 3. By the end of the first year of any subsequent term to your first, because you all love sitting on the board so much that when you sit for multiple terms, the first year of any subsequent term, you have to take Gov 4 again. And that really is around legal updates, change to statutory laws, new ethics cases that may have been adjudicated that might impact what it is you do as a Board of Education, okay? The disclosure statements, again, you have as seated board members, and you're not new, you have until April 30th. If you're a brand new board member, you have 30 days after the start of your term to file your financial disclosure statement. Or if you're just newly hired as an administrator, you have those same 30 days, okay? What are the penalties they can levy against a board member? A reprimand, which is exactly what it says. It's what you do with your children. Stop it, don't do it again. A censure, which essentially is a little more formal. A statement has to be read in an open public meeting of the rebuke from the commissioner of your behavior, and then posted in the district for 30 days. So that's a little more formal. They can suspend you for a specific period of time, and or they can remove you permanently from the board if the behavior is so egregious as to warrant that. I have seen them do it in the past, but they have not done it very often in the last 10 years or so. But they do have that authority. They've used it less. When I started this work a long time ago, they had more removals than they do now. Okay? Here's the actual code, and I know your attorney's been through this, so I'm not going to spend a great deal of time, but upholding and enforcing all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education. This has caused particular consternation when boards are faced with something that may not be popular in the public, where you may not want to adopt, for example, a particular policy or give a test you may not remember, but with the Common Core, and they went to those series of tests and assessments. There were some districts that they didn't want their students taking those assessments, and they wanted to opt out. But boards didn't have the luxury of allowing you to opt out because it was a state requirement that all students take those tests. We're still facing that with New Jersey Ask in some districts as well, because they just don't want their students taking the assessments. Also, around HPE, as those standards changed and evolved, and around the LGBTQAI policy 5756, which is like tattooed across all of our brains from hearing about it so much. So you are required as a board to follow all of those. The Ethics Commission actually did weigh in on a case and said, you individually have the right to vote against it. However, if the full board failed to enforce it, that would be an ethics violation. So it's sort of an interesting way of adjudicating that, but that's what their decision was, okay? Making your decisions in the interest of all students and not one segment of your student body or another, not the football team or the cheerleaders or the AP students. You have to make the decision in the best interest of all students, regardless of who they are. And so that's something that's really not too hard to do. Confining your board actions to policymaking, planning, and appraisal, and not running the schools on a day-to-day basis, not administering the schools. Sometimes that's a challenge in some districts. I know it's not here. And you should consult those who are going to be impacted by the decisions you make. Oftentimes that comes through your faculty and through your administration, that consultation piece, but you need to be aware of it. And this is, you will not run the schools, you will see that they are well run. They reiterated it sort of in two different components of the code, but it is a significant piece. Recognizing that the authority of the board resides in all of you together collaboratively at a duly advertised meeting of the board like tonight. You have that authority, but when you adjourn and go back out into your community, you have no more authority in your community than any other citizen in your community or any other citizen anywhere. So you have no individual authority to have anyone act on behalf of the district. No staff member, not your superintendent. The superintendent acts at the behest of the majority of the board and not individuals, okay? Refusing to surrender your independent judgment to any kind of special interest or partisan political group for the gain, or to use the district for personal gain. Again, you know, sort of the red line is there any benefit that would accrue to me that is greater than would accrue to any other person in the district, is sort of that guideline for making decisions around when you make a decision or a judgment, okay? Holding confidential all information that might needlessly harm students or staff. Anything that is conducted in confidential session or executive session must remain in executive session until the need for confidentiality has passed. You have a policy that provides for how items, once the confidentiality has passed, for those items to become public and become part of the public record. But until that time passes and you're there, it won't become public. There are some items that will never become public. Staff personnel matters, student matters will never become public because they have an inalienable right to their privacy and confidentiality. Okay? You're required to vote to appoint the best qualified people after a recommendation from your executive administrative officer, from your superintendent. That does not mean you have to vote yes on every single appointment. What it does mean is that if you're not going to approve a recommendation, that your reasoning is not arbitrary or capricious, and that is the legal standard for voting no, okay? You will support and protect school personnel in the proper performance of their duties. That simply means you can't stand on the sidelines at the lacrosse game anymore and criticize the coach in public. You may have been able to do that before you became a board member, but you can't once you become a staff member. Again, that doesn't mean if you see a problem or you hear of something out there in the community, I say to board members all the time, if it's no different than what they say, the police say, if you see something, say something. Reach out to the superintendent if you're hearing things about a concern of the public that you think needs to be addressed, okay? No surprises. But in the meantime, you have to support your school personnel in the proper performance of their duties. You have to refer all complaints to the chief school administrative officer, your superintendent. Board members should not be investigating why bus 28 is late every day and following it around the community and reporting back to the superintendent. I don't have to make these things up. I've seen these things happen. That's not your responsibility. You know, you act only after an administrative solution has not been found. The board is the court of last resort. And if you involve yourself early on in a dispute and it comes to the board, you would have to recuse yourself and not participate. And you don't want to find yourself in that situation. What you can do, and I've said this to you all a million of times, is to give the public access by understanding what the chain of command looks like. Who do they need to talk to get their concern or their issue addressed? That doesn't mean necessarily resolved in the way they want it resolved, but it's addressed so that someone has heard them, someone has spoken to them, and talked to them through whatever concern they have. So the chain of command, you generally say, starts at with the person who is closest to where the issue exists. So for example, if it's a parent who has a concern about something in a child's classroom, they would start with the child's teacher. And if they weren't satisfied with the resolution, from discussing it with the teacher, they would go to the school principal or the vice principal. And then they would go to the assistant superintendent and ultimately work their way up to the superintendent, but not through you. But what you need to do is be able to tell them who they need to talk to first. You know, if you have a problem with a coach, you talk to the coach first, then you talk to the athletic director, then you talk to the vice principal or the high school principal, who's ever next in your particular configuration, and so forth and so on, till it would get to the administration. So if you can give them access, they will be able to have a solution to their problem, and they know that they are being heard. And oftentimes, that's what they want. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes they still won't come to a board meeting and say, no one's got back to me, I wasn't satisfied, but that doesn't mean that no one heard them. It just may mean that they didn't necessarily have the solution that was optimal from their perspective. But you want to make sure that that happens, okay? The chain of command for a board member, sometimes staff inadvertently might come to you and suggest that there's a problem and actually be looking for you to solve their problem. So as a board member, what do you do? Well, all of the employees in the school district have a process in place by virtue of their associations by which they can be heard. They have an association that represents them. They have building reps within their buildings. They have a grievance process, whether it's administrators or it's teachers. And so they know to not step outside of those lines and contact Board of Education members, but sometimes they do. And if that happens, you need to guide them gracefully back you need to speak to your supervisor, you need to speak to possibly your union representative, but there's nothing that I can individually do for you because it's not different than dealing with parents. You're not the problem solvers. You can give them access, tell them what they can do, and then after that, you need to notify the superintendent because staff does know better than to do that. But sometimes it happens and they get frustrated, okay? So always let your superintendent know, copy your board president. It goes to no surprises, so no one's ever surprised about what's going on in the district. We've included in this presentation a copy of a lot of these most recent cases. This is one where someone copied and pasted a board email and have sent it off to the public and it had confidential information in it. Again, that's what I mean by social media. I don't mean it's just they're out there on Twitter or they're out there on other stuff. You have to be very careful with how you use that. Using your board email can give the impression that if you're going on social media, that you're speaking as a board member, and that's problematic. You should never use your district email address to go on social media. So if you want to go on social media, you need to use your personal email address and not your district email. That's an important part, okay? Here's a case where a member contacted vendors and districts to get prices. He thought he would get a better price than the business administrator. Again, that's way outside the role of a Board of Education member. This has happened before. I had a board member who went to the banks trying to get a better interest rate years and years ago for the district. He wanted to get a higher interest rate on the bank's deposit. So he went to the depository, whatever bank that was, and tried to do that. And the Ethics Commission has been pretty consistent in saying that's outside your lane as a Board of Education member. If the board directs the business administrator to look for another bank or a different depository, that's one thing. That's the appropriate way to do it, but not individually going out and dealing with vendors, okay? So again, making sure that you're staying within your guidelines. And I'm not going to read through all of these cases. I'm going to send you a copy of this tomorrow, this presentation, so that if you would like to read them, you certainly can. And I would encourage you to do that because the SEC has an expectation that board members will be aware of their decisions as well as their public advisory decisions and work within those guidelines, okay? But I'm not going to take all your time to do it today because it takes a great deal of time, okay? There are some areas where you have to recuse yourself because you may have family members who are have a business interest with the district and or some kind of financial or agreement with the district. Again, you have to be careful. If that is the circumstance for you, no discussion, no vote, you have to recuse yourself, and I want to make this distinction. Sometimes board members will abstain and get confused between abstentions and recusals. If there's a legal prohibition against your participation, you must recuse. If you feel you want to abstain for a particular reason, meaning you don't have enough information, not because it's politically difficult sometimes to vote on an item, because you don't have enough information, you can abstain, but there is a difference between recusing and abstentions. So it's when it's legally prohibited behavior, it's a recusal. And if it's your choice, it's not a legal prohibition against your doing something, you can abstain. But that's something that the SEC just was chatting about with all of us most recently because they're concerned that it's not being characterized in, which is not BA's fault. Board members are not abiding by that distinction. So you just need to be aware of it, okay? And again, you can't take any gift or favor with intended to influence you. That would be problematic. And you should not accrue any benefit that is greater to any other member of the public. And that's really that deciding line to think about it. And so here's the piece around conflict and recusal. Recuse when it's a legal requirement to recuse, to not vote, not participate. And that means you can't sit in executive session, you can't discuss it at all, and you can't vote, okay? If you're abstaining because it's not a legal conflict, you can sit in the discussion and you can hear everybody, and then you can make a decision because it's not a legally prohibited item, okay? Your immediate family members and a relative, they have finally, and I think I shared this with you and gave it to you last year, and I will send you this list separately as well, a list of all of the conflicted family members you have ever met or may hope to meet that would cause a problem for you in the district. You may know all of these folks, but it's a very comprehensive list. And finally, we can say with surety, that's a conflict, that's not a conflict. So just be aware of that. In terms of hiring personnel, if you have a relative that's already employed in the district, you'll have to recuse yourself. You can't participate in anything having to do with the terms and conditions of employment or anything of that nature. Additionally, if you have a family member employed in the district, you are conflicted out of the superintendent's evaluation, setting terms and conditions of employment of the superintendent, and/or if you were doing a search, participating in the search for a new superintendent. I don't think any of you have that conflict, but if I do have boards that have to invoke the doctrine of necessity in order to just do a search or to be able to hire a superintendent because there's not a majority of the board that's not conflicted. Okay, so while it doesn't apply here, it's important. Your superintendent is prohibited by law to recommend the hiring of any relative of a board member once you become a board member. Now, once you're off, right, that's a whole separate piece. They can be recommended. But as long as you are on the board, he can't hire his own family either, by the way, okay? I know, there that goes, but that is prohibited as well. In terms of collective bargaining, I know some of you are educators, and so you're always asking about whether you can participate in negotiations. This is the go-to chart. So if you are a board member and you can read the relationships, if your spouse, your dependent child, not your dependent child who's not a dependent, that's an expansion. It used to just say dependent child, or a relative works in the district, you can't participate in negotiations and you can't vote on the contract, okay? If you, as a board member for yourself, your spouse, or dependent child works out of the district in a similar or the same statewide association, because we do have NJEA in most districts, but we also have AFL-CIO, we have some districts that have Teamsters, so they're similar unions, so they just clump them all together. You can't participate in negotiations, but you can vote on the contract after all of the costs of the contract have been laid out, meaning all the salary guides have been done, absent any other conflicts. What are other conflicts? If your family member who works in another district is a building rep, an officer of the association, or sits on the negotiations committee of the district where they are teaching or working, that's heightened union activity, then you can't vote. So it's a little confusing, but it's all on this slide. And if you have any, questions about it for any of you that have family members in that circumstance, always check with your board attorney who will make sure that you stay within those lines appropriately. Okay, as long as you can mount a negotiations committee, you should be in good shape. And if you had to, you can invoke the doctrine of necessity to approve a contract as well. So that's not a problem, okay? Again, here's something that's a little different that's just happened recently in the last couple of years. The endorsement by the Teachers Association of a candidate used to conflict a new board member out of negotiations for the first full year of their service, okay? Now they've said it's no longer an automatic kicking you out of negotiations. You can stay in, depending. But they've also, we've seen instances, some of these are not yet public decisions, where they've been endorsed, but now not only can they not participate in negotiations, they can't sit on committees. Finance and facilities, mostly the finance component to that, in addition to the negotiations. So they're sort of weaving their way down, okay? These are all cases that have to do with conflicts, and again, I'm not going to take the time to read through all of these because I know you have a busy meeting ahead with your students coming in. This is something that's particularly new. A board president who's conflicted, his child's an instructional assistant in the district, cannot choose any committee members. Okay, so they are expanding how they're looking at these conflicts and the impact that they potentially have in the district. A board member's spouse is a 10-month employee in the technology department. The board member can't be involved in any and all matters related to tech, directly or indirectly, including personnel negotiations and the finance committee. So they are really expanding that look and narrowing what board members can do. So again, that's from result of the endorsement of the Teachers Association, okay? So it's a different thing. Impact on an executive session. We saw several instances where board members who have a family member employed in the school district sat in exec sessions where in some way their relatives were touched upon. That's problematic. Whether it was an HIV situation for a child in a district, or whether it was a relative who was an employee, they could not sit in on the executive session for that discussion, okay? And so that you need to be aware of that. Volunteering really hasn't changed since the last time I gave you this presentation, and that is you can volunteer, but you can't direct students or staff. You can't take direction from students or staff, and you should absolutely categorically not handle any kind of district monies that are coming in through your volunteer work. And as I've said, I used to run the school store when my kid was in second grade. It was nickels and dimes for erasers and stickers, but now that would not be permitted, right? And you can't be a volunteer coach in the district if you're a Board of Education member, because it's repetitive contact with students and giving direction to students. And so you can be a Park and Rec coach, Pop Warner coach, but you can't be a Bound Brook school district volunteer. Even if you're a volunteer and not getting paid, it doesn't matter. You can't do that, okay? Again, you can vote however you like, but again, you have to be aware of what it is you're voting on and not violating. Again, this is the case where an individual refused to approve the HP standards. Had the whole board done that, it would have been a problem, but individually, the individual could vote no. So, a minority of a board could always vote no on that, and you would still be in good shape, but you need to be aware of it. That's out there, so just being mindful. Again, social media, tends to be the most problematic area. My recommendation to all Board of Education members is stay off of it. District business should be discussed at the board table. That's where it's appropriate. Your meetings are live. They're available to your community. The community can hear your discussions. They had the right to hear those discussions. Now they can do it from home, in the comfort of their home, at their own time and place when they want to watch it. So there is really no reason to use social media. But if you're going to, just be mindful, include a disclaimer that says, this is my opinion, solely represents me. I'm not representing the board or its opinions. And you're just better served by not discussing district business on social media, because it just is difficult once it's out there. Additionally, I have some board members that say to me, well, I post because I want them to come to the meetings and I want them, then send them to your district website where accurate information is portrayed, right? Where the up-to-date information, meeting dates, school activities, anything they need to see is going to be there. Drive them to those places, not to your personal homepage. They've also said that if you have a campaign page that you created during the campaign for your election to the Board of Education, after you're elected, you cannot use your campaign page because it leads people to think that you're speaking on behalf of the board, okay? Again, I'm not going to read all of these cases, but again, here's the disclaimer. The following statements are made in my capacity as a private citizen and not in my capacity as a Board of Education member. They are not representative of the board. Its individual members are solely represent my own personal opinions. If you're going to do it, make sure you include that. Does that give you 100% protection? No. They have said it depends on the content of your posts. And so, I have board members that say to me, but Gwen, I put the disclaimer up. Well, yeah, but then you spent 20 minutes talking about a staff member or 20 minutes talking about something that was in executive session, so that disclaimer is not going to protect you. It's about the content, which is why, these cases are so fact specific than trying to make generalizations from them. So my generalization is be smart, don't do it. Okay? Again, this is about the disclaimer, social media guidance. They have said more than one time that the use of divisive language is antithetical to the reason that you sit on a Board of Education, which is to benefit kids. We would not want to read divisive language from our students on social media. Why we would want to see it from adults, we don't, okay? Just points to consider. We recommend that you develop a list of conflicts if you have folks that have that, if it's appropriate. Consult with your board attorney if you have any questions, and continue to check school board notes We actually, anytime we publish school board notes and there are new cases, because they meet once a month, we put all of that information in school board notes, so it's always available to you. Okay? All right. So thank you for your attention. As always, it's a pleasure to be here. I will see you in a couple of brief weeks for meeting 3 of our strategic plan. I hope members of the public as well as students continue to come and attend, because it was a really wonderful meeting that we had the last time with their students and the community. So I look forward to seeing you all then, and hopefully the weather stays warm and sunny, no more snow, and I will see you then.
Great.
Well, it has all of the resources, so if you want to read the cases in depth and not just a summary, you'll have access to those.
Thanks, Gwen.
You're welcome. My pleasure always. Yes.
Thank you. A question for you.
You're unmuted.
All right, welcome everybody. We're going to come back into session. For those of you who are joining us for the superintendent's report, I'm happy to say that we can get right to that this evening. So without further ado, Dr. Hyman, you're on.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our February board meeting. Glad to see such a nice crowd come out tonight. Get to welcome our students and our staff, very special to us. At this time, I am going to call Mr. Smith up to recognize
My
the students from this school, students of the month.
All right.
Look shocked when I say that.
All right. Good evening. All right, we have our first recipient of the Crusader Citizen of the Month for the high school. We have Ashley Gonzalez Lopez. Is Ashley, oh, she's here. Where are you, Ashley?
Ashley here.
Come on down.
Come on down, Ashley.
All right, so Ashley has 3 siblings, Joanne, Ennis, and Isabella. Her favorite subjects in school are ESL, history, and art. Her favorite hobbies are basketball, reading, watching videos, volleyball, and singing. And her future career plans, she would like to study pediatrics or gynecology. Very nice.
All right, we're good.
All right, our next recipient is Ashley Farrell. Ashley, oh, she's not going to be here, but I'll read her information anyway. Her favorite subject in school is English. Ashley has no siblings. Favorite hobbies are cheerleading and competitive dance. And unsure what her career plans are going to be, but she definitely wants to go to a college or university. So. All right, we have Fabrizio Garita. Is he here, Fabrizio? Fabrizio has 2 siblings, Marco and Francisco. His favorite subject in school is art, and his favorite hobbies are talking on the phone, playing video games, and hanging out with friends. And his future career plans are to be a veterinarian.
Good job.
And last but certainly not least, we have Joseph Bedoya. Okay, Joseph has 1 sibling, Anna, who also attends Boundbrook High School. His favorite subjects are biology and band. Favorite hobbies are photography, and his future career plans are to join the Army and become an EMT. Thank you.
Mr. Smith. Next up, Dr. Sandy Summer.
Hello, everyone. The Community Middle School is proud to recognize as its first Student of the Month this evening, Ava Huga. Ava is a 7th grader, was nominated by her language arts teacher, Miss Kasabian, has 3 siblings, favorite subject being physical education, enjoys playing basketball and volleyball, and when Ava grows up, wants to be a doctor.
Good job.
The next recipient from the community middle school, Xavier Davis. Xavier is in 8th grade and was nominated by his teacher, Ms. Pettish. Xavier has one brother, favorite subject being film. Favorite hobby is football, and when Xavier grows up, wants to become a firefighter.
Next up from small school, we have Mrs. Carbone.
Good evening, everyone. We are going out of order tonight, and you'll see why at the end. So we're going to start with our 3rd grade student of the month, and this is Lauren Vasquez. Lauren, are you here? Come on down.
Hey, Lauren.
I'm so proud of you. All right, Lauren was nominated by her teachers, Miss Civilella and Miss Glassman. Lauren has 2 siblings, Amy and Adrian. Lauren's favorite subject is math because you can multiply. Her favorite hobby is soccer and gaming. And she said, when I grow up, I want to be a cashier at Target. So I Student of the month is our 5th grader, Eric Alfaro. Do you want to do this with you? All right, Eric is a 5th grader who was nominated by Miss Campbell and Miss Sandler, his ELA teachers. Eric has one sister whose name is, and she's in
8th grade.
She's in 8th grade. He also has a brother named,
Josue.
and he's in
Second.
2nd grade. Yes. Eric's favorite subject in school is science. All right, and his favorite hobby is
Watching my phone.
watching your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, watching his phone. His favorite hobby. And when Eric grows up, he would like to be
A professional soccer player.
a professional soccer player. Okay, for our 3rd and 4th students of the month, I present to you the Obando family. Darian is our 6th grade student of the month, and Laura's our 4th grade student of the month. And I think we also need to give a cheer to Mom and Dad because if you You guys want to help me? All right. go first for you, okay? All right, Laura is in 4th grade, and she was nominated by her math teachers, Mr. Mages and Miss Wright. Lara has one sibling, Darian, in the 6th grade. Lara loves, because she loves to learn new information. Her favorite hobbies is she loves to dance and hang out with her friends. When she gets older, she wants to be like your
Mom.
a successful businesswoman like her mom. Yeah, okay. Our 6th grade. Do you remember that? I'll help you. Our 6th grade student of the month is Darian Obando. He has one sister in 4th grade, Laura. Darian was nominated by his teachers, Mr. Melisturgo and Miss Mullen. Darian's favorite subject is? Math. When Darian gets older, he would like to?
I would like to be a video game programmer and get a job at Nintendo.
And Darian's favorite hobby is?
Hanging out with my family, do fun things with them, watching my phone and watch TV.
Very good job. I'm so proud of you. Come on, take a picture.
Good job, Darian.
All right, let's get this.
All right, come on, sis.
Good job.
Great.
Great.
Let's give a cheer for you.
Let's start with Lafayette School, Ms. Diaz.
Our 1st grade student of the month is Genesis Rivera Gomez. Her fancy new haircut today. Genesis is in 1st grade with Mrs. Hoff. She has 2 sisters. She loves to read. Her favorite hobby is basketball, and she wants to be a chef.
We need her in the middle.
I know.
Good job.
Congratulations. Our 2nd grade student of the month is Alan Rodriguez. Alan is in Mrs. Patel's class. He has 2 older siblings. His favorite school subject is math. He loves to play tag and video games, especially Roblox, and he wants to be a police officer. Congratulations.
All right, let's.
Oh, one more?
No, we're good.
Congratulations, Alan.
And filling in for Dr. S. is Ms. Chaos, recognizing Lamont and Lamont Annex Students of the Month.
Okay, I think our first student is Ian Dines.
Is Ian here? Ian?
His teacher is Miss Christina. He has one brother, Jared. His favorite school subject is math. He loves to learn about new earth science topics by watching videos on volcanoes, tornadoes, baby animals, and more. Ian says he wants to be a firefighter when he grows up to be big and strong. And he was nominated by his teacher because he shows kindness to everyone, teachers, friends, and other peers around him. He is excelling in his academics so fast we can barely keep up. He is a super student and deserves to be recognized. Congratulations.
So when you look at the recording, you can see yourself in the level.
And our pre-K student of the month is Aria Davis. Aria is in Mrs. Sanchez's class. She likes to explore in the art center and toys and game center. She enjoys working with numbers and counting. Aria likes reading books, creating art, and playing with her friends. She wants to be a police officer when she grows up. And she was picked by her teacher because she is caring, sweet, polite, and a very happy child who is eager to learn and does well in school. She is her affectionate smile brightens everyone's day. Yes, we did.
We did.
I'll call you next week.
Let's have one last round of applause for all of our students of the month and their parents, because without you, we really want to work. Next up, I'd like to call Ms. Carbona for our Employee of the Month.
Hi, I'm so honored to do this tonight. I have been so excited for this night for the past week when I heard that our very own Miss Guilford has won Employee of the Month. So I wrote to nominate Miss Guilford for this award because over the past year, I've witnessed the incredible things that she has done in her classroom and for her team. Miss Guilford's passion for individualized instruction, creative teaching methods, and unwavering support for each student's unique needs make her stand out as an outstanding educator. Miss Guilford's class is often in small groups working collaboratively. Miss Guilford works with a regular ed teacher. Miss Guilford works with regular ed and special education students alike. To Miss Guilford, it doesn't matter if they have an IEP or not. They are all her students, and all people in her classroom deserve her expertise. She shares a class with a coach to ensure that students all receive top-tier education. Beyond the classroom, Ms. Guilford is an integral member of the third grade team. She and her co-teacher are the most senior team in the WIC. Therefore, her co-teacher and she serve as models to the other teachers. Additionally, Ms. Guilford is a mentor to one of our novice teachers. And I'm going to tell you from experience, I know that all the teachers, they go to Ms. Guilford and their co-teacher. They trust her. They trust her as a confidant. They trust her to give advice. They trust what she does in the classroom. And that says so much about what Ms. Guilford does. These efforts contribute significantly to the positive and inclusive atmosphere within our school. It's funny. Miss Guilford, you don't hear from her a lot. She kind of does her own thing. She flies under the radar. But this flying is a fighter jet equivalent to the original Top Gun with Tom Cruise, because that flying under the radar is pretty darn good. I believe that recognizing Miss Guilford as Teacher of the Month would not only honor her as she deserves, but it also shines a light on the importance of special education in our school and in our community. Thank you, Miss Guilford, for all you do. Come on down.
Here's your t-shirt. Oh, thank you.
I have to give you a hug.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You want me to take a picture?
No, you have to take a picture.
You gotta take a picture.
You were there like that.
So much fun. Thank you.
All right.
Congratulations. Very good. Okay, with all parents and students come on up to the stage to take a group picture.
That way, please.
Come on up, everybody.
All right, you are unmuted.
All right, everybody, we are going to reconvene. We are up to item, actually, student board member report. Do we have anything for this meeting?
Yeah, so we have a small report today. Mr. Smith and I developed a new peer tutoring system. The flyers for it were sent out this week and last week, and we're expecting to begin connecting students hopefully by next week. Tutoring has begun for the NJGPA for the junior class and will continue until the exam comes 2 weeks from today, I believe. There will be a professional development day for student reps all over the county sometime in March or in April. I don't remember the exact date, to be honest. And for the winter teams, boys basketball currently have their state quarterfinal match about 4 minutes ago, and their record is 16-10. The girls basketball team ended their season with a win-loss record of 15-10. Wrestling has 2 athletes going to states in Atlantic City, them being Ethan Dela Cruz, who's a freshman, and Lennox Forsberg, who's a senior and 4-time regional champion. And for winter track and field, in their first season back, they have 2 athletes going to the MEDA Champions, which is the level 4 nationals. Those being Alana Landers, who's a thrower, and Olger and Alec, who's a pole vaulter. And sadly, I didn't make the mark. But yeah, that's it.
Outstanding. Thank you for a great report and congratulations to all of our student athletes and coaches. All right, we are up to item number 4.1. These are the committee reports. We'll start with the education committee. Mr. Dawson.
Good evening, Mr. President. We met several weeks ago. There are a few topics on our agenda. We talked about using a modified schedule for the NJGPA. We also talked about the high school course of studies being finalized and the process of using the Genesis software for inputting teacher course recommendations for our students. So very good and exciting work taking place at the high school level to get all that work set up and underway.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Any questions on education committee? All right, hearing none, Mr. Val for governance.
Okay, we spent the majority of the time talking about strategic planning in our first meeting. The one thing that I really want to point out, we kind of looked at the common themes of strengths and challenges, and I found it fascinating that the biggest strength that was throughout almost every comment people left were about culture, warmth of environment, by staff and administration. The second was actually the utilization of data-driven instruction to improve achievement. The reason that I bring these up is I'm not making this up. These really were the top 2 things because they are a perfect reflection of our board and district the last 2 years. They are exactly the things that we are trying to achieve. So as we move forward, we obviously want to keep those things going. But it's good to see that the public at large does see those changes that we've been trying to make. We did spend quite a bit of time also talking about how to get people out to the next 2 meetings. Dr. Freeman had some great ideas, as did the committee members. And for those of you that attended the second meeting, you saw that in action as we did have quite a bit more, quite a few more people from all walks of life attend the second meeting. So it is working. We got a lot more people, and for those of you out there, we have 1 more meeting to go. So we'd love to see even more people next time if possible. Lastly, I talked briefly really to Lisa about her athletics and extracurricular committee. And it technically in the charter does fall under operations, and she agreed that it can probably go back to operations, but we would still like to probably meet with Mr. Steele once before each season begins. So that probably means August, November, February, but those months to be determined, but we still want to meet with them just to have updates before those seasons begin. And that was it for governance.
Very good, Mr. Val. Any questions on governance? Hearing none, let's move on to human resources. Ms. Hyde?
Okay, we have a few things on human resources, not a heck of a lot, but one of the things that was discussed was the mental health, and that is the mental health component, and we were informed that there are more and more people just registering for it, and that there has been positive feedback on it. There's also departments in net, and there is a streamlining of responsibilities. Just to be like one for the interviewing process, just for the forms that are going out to candidates and then coming back, and just procedures for signing contracts. It's just getting more and more streamlined so that it's really the responsibility of a certain few rather than going from place to place. There was also a letter of intent, which was really nice. It was when somebody comes into the district and is, with the intent of joining the district, just to welcome them into the district. HR continues with updating job descriptions, policy and regulations. That's something that's always ongoing. And our final thing is we were talking about negotiations, and I see some familiar faces back there. Hello. But you know what? We have worked really, I think, very well with the Boundary Education Association. It's been a process. It's been, in my opinion, it's been a respectful process, and we are very, very close. So we're looking for those updates, and I'm sure that we'll be having another meeting just to finalize everything. So I think that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Sue. For the members of the board, I would point out that there actually is a version of an MOA with the BBEA on tonight's agenda. It's actually agenda item 9.8. We will have a brief executive session just before we vote on item 9 in case any members who not participate in negotiations have questions or would like to discuss it further. Otherwise, we'll return to the table and take care of business. And thank you, Sue. Any questions on human resources? Hearing none. Mr. Zupko on operations.
Operations is usually busy. This is a busy report. It's actually a great report because the meetings are always very interesting. So when it's talking about independent verification and remediation that was performed at Lafayette, Mr. Molina and Gorski updated the committee on the district solicitation of 2 proposals to independently verify if the remediation work performed by Faros Construction to prevent the water seepage into the new basement is satisfactory. Mr. Molina will provide specifics to define the scope and will verify everything. Mr. Ballmer is also provided to observe the verification service. Mr. Gorski, you can chime in. We also have a budget update, and I wanted to say the board is thankful for our administrative team working so diligently with the budget. Mr. Gorski informed the committee that all revenues have been estimated in appropriation center. We are ahead of schedule compared to last year. I want to repeat that again, ladies and gentlemen. We are ahead of schedule compared to last year, and I want to give a shout out to our administrative team for that. So thank you very, very much. Certain material estimates that remain, including on the revenue side, state aid, tuition revenue from southbound. Mr. Gorski, can you give a little bit of update in relation to that, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Zucko. We discussed some of the material updates into the budget from the beginning. Health premiums are one of them. The initial quote that we got from Horizon was a 17.5% increase. We talked about that at the previous meeting. That's because of claims experience becoming negative. And Dr. Freeman and I requested that our health insurance broker solicit alternative quotes from other carriers. This would be like, kind, or better insurance, just a different provider. For example, Aetna instead of Horizon. And we have one proposal from Aetna that came in at 9.6, which is about half of the proposed increase from Horizon. So we are still negotiating all of these, and there'll be more to come on that. One of the bigger estimates that we have in the budget right now is on the revenue side, and that's state aid. Those numbers are expected to be released on Thursday. This is the last installment year under S2, which is an adjustment to the School Funding Reform Act that brings districts like Bound Brook, who are underfunded for so long, to full funding. So this is the year where we should finally hit full funding according to the school funding formula. And we received rateable information from the township. The ratables have gone up in town about 7%. That's very favorable for the school tax rate. And we'll have a lot more to come at the next meeting once we finalize everything after Thursday's release of state.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it. We also had a ransomware update. Mr. Gorski updated the committee that the district was successful in being granted a $20 deductible instead of a $250,000 deductible because the district was successful in providing evidence of compliance with law representation concerning the cyber policy. Again, thank you. If it wasn't for our administrative team, we would have paid a larger deductible. The committee was also informed last week that we received a check of $153,000 for approved cost net of the deductible, and also informed the committee that $43,383 of the costs not approved, and it will be appealed to be reconsidered. Mr. Gorski, do you want to add anything?
No, that covers it. We haven't heard anything about the appeal yet, but we're confident that at least half or maybe the full amount will be covered with our appeal process.
Excellent. Our robotics club, which we are so proud of, the staff is requesting to use district pickup truck and trailers for robotics competitions. Advisors wanted to use those, like I said, for the competition. Mr. Gorski told the committee that our insurance broker suggested that the two advisors furnish him with the driver's license and the interview transcripts. Once reviewed and approved, the two advisors can be insured for the activity. The committee recommended the action for a resolution once all the paperwork has been submitted. Going on to district signage. District signage is, the committee spent the majority of the meeting discussing the style, font, and logo to be fixed with a new smaller school sign. And eventually on all district signs, the matter could not be concluded and we tabled for additional time. And again, I know this is something that's going to affect all buildings, so eventually this will be, I think that it's good that we're putting some time into this, and I think it's going to look phenomenal once it's actually completed. Finally, the operations committee recommended the dissolution of the ad hoc committee and that the future meetings related to athletics and co-curricular activities be included in operation meeting agendas, which will have 2 more paragraphs. But other than that, I just wanted to again thank for all of our administrative team for the incredible work on budget and all of the subsequent issues that we had brought up tonight in these meeting notes. Mr. President, if you have any questions, I yield back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Zupko. Any questions from the members on operations? The only comment that I would add, because I really didn't do president's announcements, and if it wasn't a part of the students' report, was I think there's a robot reveal coming up later this week for the robotics team as well. So
It's Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
thank you. So this Thursday it's in the cafeteria, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So I would just encourage any member who are available and interested in attending to observe to do so, and any members of the general public who are watching from home to do so as well. We are up to item 4.5, the Somerset County Educational Services Commission.
That's me. It was a quiet meeting, really. There were 3 presentations at this, at the Somerset County Ed Services Commission. One was on the 2023 audit. The second was the presentation of the 24-25 school year budget. And the last presentation were for governors of the year. The other thing that goes on at Somerset ESC is very similar to what goes here. You know, one looking at calendar, updating of policies, adoption of policies, and in some cases, abolishing policies that are no longer current. And that really is it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Sue on Somerset County Ed Services Commission? All righty. Thanks again for all the committee reports. It seems like another good set of deliberations and discussions. I appreciate the thoughtful consideration of everything that the administration is asking for our feedback on. And it seems like we continue to just make progress at every possible opportunity. So thank you all again. At this point, we are on to item 5.1. Open to the public for agenda items only. So public participation in board meetings is in accordance with district policy 0167, where members of the public can sign in at the podium or online, provide their name, address, and group affiliation if applicable. This particular comment session is for agenda items only. Each participant may ask a question, and participation is limited to 3 to 5 minutes in duration. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic until others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. Any comments from the room?
Agenda items.
And, okay. Is there any questions online? All right. So we are up to turn my microphone off, sorry. We're up to item number 6.1. Be it resolved that the Brattleboro Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approves the minutes for the following meetings. Regular and executive meeting minutes of January 31st, 2024. Can I have a motion?
You get to.
Oh,
You get the.
6.2 and 6.3, my apologies. So that is the minutes from our February 21st meeting as well, which was our strategic planning meeting. That's what I'm.
Yeah, and February 1st as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Not thinking clearly tonight. So 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 are being moved for approval. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ballin. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Januzzi, I have Ms. Carlton as the second on that. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Carlton?
Yes to 6.1, abstaining 6.2 and 6.3.
Thank you. So noted. Mr. Zupko?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Volmer?
Yes.
And Mr. Board President?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7.1, be it resolved that the superintendent recommends for approval the resolutions as outlined in district personnel resolutions. This is 7.2 through 7.35. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Zeppo. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Casino. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, Mr. Corsi, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Carlton?
Yes, except for items marked by asterisk.
So noted. Thank you. Mr. Zupko?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Volmer?
Yes.
Mr. Board President?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We're up to item number 8.1, approval of district education resolutions. Be it resolved that the Brattleboro Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in district education resolutions. This is 8.2 through 8.12. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Minhouse. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, Mr. Corsi, roll call, please.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Carlton?
Yes, except for items marked by asterisk.
Thank you. Mr. Zupko?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Volmer?
Yes.
And Mr. Board President?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to move to go into executive session, or I entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations.
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? We are adjourned to executive session.
Have fun in there, guys.
You're unmuted. All right, everybody, we are back in session. We are up to item 9.1. Be it resolved that the Brattleboro Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in the Board Action Resolutions. This is 9.2 through 9.22. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard, second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Any discussion?
Thank you for the donation.
Please, by all means, turn your mic up.
Sorry?
Do your thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for the donation of the bikes.
Very generous. Question?
Oh, my goodness.
Items 9.13, 9.14. Came to the Farris Construction for work at Lafayette. I was prepared to make a motion to table a resolution on that until I was told that we could not pay them because the board was shy. So I was suggested I address the question to our board attorney as to why we cannot withhold payment to them.
Yeah, because the work's been done, the architect signed off on it. At this point, it's really not a basis to withhold payment. In terms of some of the other remaining items, there's other ways that those can be addressed, separate and apart from, paying for the work that's already completed. So, we can certainly talk about some of those other options that the board has, cleaning up some of the other items that are still.
So sorry, I gotta look at it. It's only because the architect signed off, not a representative from the school district? Does that not need to be included?
Well, I mean, the architect's overseeing the project generally. They certify that the work's been completed. I think we also have a CO, if I'm not mistaken, on the project. So most of the work has been done, barring, some punch list items, items that are covered by the performance bond, and some items that are still left. And there's still some money being done, not a lot, but there's still some money.
So I think the feedback for now is that we do not have grounds to withhold payment based on the situation we are currently in. However, that does not mean we are without tools to address the situation. And we can talk about what potential options those include when we go into executive session in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on anything in section? All right, hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Carlton?
Yes to everything but 9.13, 9.14, and 9.22.
13, 14, and 22. Thank you. Mr. Zupko?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Fulmer?
Yes, with reservations. Yes.
And Mr. Board President?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We are now up to other matters to come before the board, which none have been remitted, and new business. If any of the members wishes to speak on anything that was not on the agenda this evening.
I think we have some audience members who want to clap.
There you go. Yes. All right, we're now up to item number 12, open to the public for discussion. I'll save everybody the trouble of listening to me, the same caveats apply, 3 to 5 minutes, let's make sure we sign.
Hello, Lauren Paxson, president of the Bound Brook Education Association. I'm not up here for a discussion or ask questions. I'm up here to thank you for the 3-year contract. This was a 2-year process to get here, and you kind of stole my thunder before. I actually wanted to say that the 2-year process, we learned that this board is different than the old boards. We do have good conversations. Sometimes it's a tough conversation, but it is more cordial. And I'm not going to say I can't wait for the next round, but at least I'm not afraid of the next round now. So thank you very much.
None online.
No questions online. So we are now up to item number 13.1, moving on to executive session. Resolved that the Bound Brook Board of Education enter executive session as allowed by NJSA 10:4-11 for the purposes noted on the agenda in number 1, 3, 4, 7, and 8. May I have a motion? I'm going to give the motion to Ms. Guzino and the second to Mr. Val. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you're unmuted.
All right, welcome back. We are up to item 14.1. Be it resolved that the Brownfield Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIV cases under high school. This is 14.2 and 14.1. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sepulveda. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sir, Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Casino?
Yes.
Ms. Carlton?
Yes.
Mr. Suffolk? Yes. Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Fulmer?
Yes.
And Mr. Board President?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir. Item 15.1, be it resolved that the Brownfield Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in HIV cases under middle and elementary schools. This is 15.2 and 15.3. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Val. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Minhas. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Casino?
Yes.
Ms. Carlton?
Abstain.
So noted. Mr. Suffolk? Yes. Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Fulmer?
Yes.
Mr. Board President?
Yes.
Motion passes.
We are up to item 16.1. Be it resolved that the Brownfield Board of Education adjourns. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Val. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.